Let me say a special good evening to Mr. Clemens Joseph. Yes. I'm happy indeed to be here this evening to speak on behalf of Dominica Festivals Committee and this Dominica Authority, because we felt it was important and necessary to organize something to mark the first year anniversary of the passing of our dear brother. And for us, Jeff was more than a brother, he was more than a friend. He was a hard worker, he was an ambassador, he was a great human being. And for that, tonight we want to celebrate his life. We feel that this is just the beginning. Tonight is just the beginning, because we think that Jeff really did a lot for Dominica and did a lot for the world, that his life needs to be celebrated in a big way. And so the DFC and this Dominica Authority, we have organized this event, and we get the support of the Village Council to do this event tonight. But what we would like to see happen is to perpetuate the memory of Jeff. And what we would like to see happen is, together with the DFC, between the DFC, the Village of St. Josie, that we can do a few things to do that. So we would like, as of next year, to work around the birthday of Jeff Joe. Alright? The birthday, not the death. The birthday of Jeff. And probably to do something much more elaborate as of 2014. However, we believe that because Jeff meant so much to us and so much to the world, that we have to do something concrete. We have to create something concrete for his memory. And so we are speaking with the family about doing a few things, and we will be rolling them out a little later. But I want to say on behalf of the DFC, to Mr. Joseph, to the family, thank you very much for giving us Jeff. We owe you a debt of gratitude, because he did so much for us and he made us proud. So tonight, we celebrate his life, and we're hoping that these great people, these great Dominicans, because we have to be Dominicans with us tonight, who will lead us in this discussion. Gregory Rabbis and our Lady of Song will inspire us even more to tell us a little more about the impact that Jeff created on the music scene.
Okay, I want to say good evening, everybody. Okay, I have to say that I really am very happy to be here. There's just one shortcoming. I need a t-shirt like that. Yes, like yours, no what you need, like yours. Yes, I need a t-shirt like that. You should have told me about that. And I want to congratulate and thank you for showing us Jeff Joe and in that picture. I have a small one at home. I will probably sit a little later, but I want to just begin standing. I'm wearing white because in my mind, this is the color that Jeff preferred. If it's true, put your hands together for Jeff. Rasco, it's good to see you, and you should have been in white too, but we'll give you a break. You too, Greg, we should have been in white. Well, I would like to thank Sobers Esprit, because I thought it was Sobers who was inviting me specially to be here. So Sobers, thank you on your behalf and on behalf of whoever you were representing when you asked me to be here. I would also like to thank Jeff's family and the community, all of you as a whole, for the opportunity to come and to bask in the sunlight and the moonlight that Jeff Joe has left behind. What I am most pleased about is my certainty that Jeff Joe would have wanted us to congregate like this evening, to mark his death as well as to recall the many moments within which we shared in his life. So for Jeff Joe, let's come up. I will sit down. I was asked to share some reflections entitled Jeff Joe, the Musical Icon. I intend to share some of what I know of that man, his music, his influence, his reach, and the lessons of his life and death as I see them. The first thing I heard about Jeff was that he was a singer of a band from Dominica known as the Grammars. And with the tunes about Soleil Tosho, Sukuya and Koshma, that band was making it big abroad, especially in the French departments of Guadeloupe and Martinique, just as Gordon Henderson and Exile One had done a little earlier with Akiaka, with Leshi, Gadideo, and so on. Up to that time, I was not interested in music as a career, but I remember being quite proud that Jeff and the Grammars and so many other talented Dominicans were bringing a positive and tangible Dominican message to the world. Jeff was undoubtedly a part of the movement of making a Dominican noise. And what a noise it was. While Gordon Henderson may have been one who recorded history and articulated the various thoughts on feminism and the memory of slavery, Jeff Joe was running and prancing up and down the stage. His long, lanky frame, some people used to call him Meg, was tirelessly capturing the beat of the cadence calypso numbers, and he did his own kind of dance, aggressively egging on the audience to raise their hands, to sing, to dance, and to jump. And how we would say, and everybody was in it. He used to say, Soute, Soute, Danse, Cuillé. You remember that? Avancé. He used to make them avancer. They used to go par ici, par là, and they had to go par there and avancer. And they obeyed his commands. Nobody could determine from where Jeff's energy came. In Martinique, they refer to him as being a bête de scène. That is, a stage animal who, even if he appeared to be half dead before coming on stage, and that didn't happen often enough, but he would rapidly evolve into a stage machine, leading his musicians into a feverish pitch that involuntarily drove his feet and his arms into doing things that only Jeff's crowd could do. Jeff was an assembler of persons. He demonstrated the power of uniting and making us do things together. Even the bishop said it at his funeral. And Pala and Paisi, you just cannot forget Jeff. And he's crié, sauté, and he had a kind of something in his voice, you know, that used to come out before he started singing Koshma. That kind of thing was Jeff. Yes. And if you did not participate, you felt like a fool. Jeff was never afraid of the tasks ahead. He was a working man, not a lazy person. And wherever the music called him, he felt he had to go. The greater part of his repertoire was in cadence and in Creole, and I purposely say it like that because I don't like to hear people calling it Creole and other things. It's Creole, it's Sanoa. Although we often also heard him sing reggae. Reggae is nice, so nobody can say I didn't sing. As well as the occasional ballad, Remember what he wrote for Isaiah Thomas? The one that somebody wanted me to sing at the funeral, and I said, if I start to sing that, I won't finish. Because it was so touching, because it was like a prophecy, as if he was singing for himself. And he said, you know, he was in that new place of rest. He knew he was beginning a new life. But he really would have liked to feel the sun. That was Jeff. No, my national face that day. And he touched, and I think he believed deeply in spiritual things. He prayed openly. He sang, "Bon Dieu, I sincerely hope he got that force. He had great respect for his mother and for all older ladies. This respect led him to add to his repertoire Anthony Gussie's "I Mama." In fact, people used to believe it was Jeff who had first sung "I Mama" because, you know, it became so much part of him. Jeff was also a very generous person. And in his generosity, he was never paid when he was asked to do something for seniors. I know that personally. I recall once singing in Moule and being told that the following weekend, Jeff was going to be there in the same town singing for the Election One. It's a queen show in which senior ladies took part, like our Madame Walk, that kind of thing. He understood immediately that they had a limited budget and that the show probably would not be able to pay him. So he said, "Don't worry, that man, I'll do that for you and I will do that." That was Jeff. One never got tired of Jeff or of his songs. Like a professional, he gave the people what they wanted, time and time again. Playing around with arrangements and putting together bits of various songs into an apparently never-ending medley. Jeff knew how to maintain your interest and your attention. Off stage, Jeff was a little less aggressive, if not more quiet. He was the type whom you either liked or you disliked. People would smile when Jeff would come into a room or come in a corner where you're standing talking. And you could never say he left you indifferent. When he spoke to you, it was as if he had never gone away. He would come sometimes from Martinique, from Guadeloupe, bearing gifts of wine, yogurt, chocolate, and those other goodies, cheese, camembert. Jeff made it a habit to call on his friends and to bring little gifts. His friends, like his fans, were many. They were in Africa, in Europe, in the Caribbean, in America, everywhere. Jeff had friends, and Jeff was known as a phenomenon, an icon of Caribbean music. Not one who had chosen to do music, but one that music had chosen. Politicians and other community leaders recognized the power he had over people and how he could instill joy and positive excitement into a crowd. Therefore, he would be invited to join in their meetings, their festivals, and whatever other events they had organized. He was named Ambassador of Martinique in recent years. In fact, Ambassador of Fort-de-France, which is the capital of Martinique. And Lime went ahead and bestowed upon him a lifetime award. I was witness to that, and we were both dressed in white. Jeff received his award, and I received mine. And we took a lovely photograph together. He used to call me his little sister, although I am older. I don't know if I look like a little sister, or if it was just the talks. And Daddy, maybe it was just the talks. The world got to know about Jeff's achievements, and they made demands on his talents, on his time, and also on his failing death, on failing health. I was concerned when towards the end I kept hearing of his frequent plane and boat rides. He appeared to be truly unstoppable at that time, and like the Energizer Bunny, he kept going and going and going and going. I said I would say that until you laugh, but you're not laughing. I am trying to make light of it because up to now, it is not automatic for me to speak about Jeff as if he has gone. I remember during our rehearsals, Michael and I, we sang together at the World Creole Music Festival this year. We were very honored to be chosen because they don't choose you every year, you know. So we were very honored. So much tell them so for us. And I remember during rehearsal, we were feeling Jeff in the room. But it was a good vibe. His spirit was there, and I knew he was happy as to how we did this show, these songs, you know, and you can clap for us, you know, because we really gave him a lot of honor. And we chatted about the phenomenon that he was, that he is. And we were saying while we were practicing, supposing a Sukuyan came there. Or what if there was a Deba in the show? And that's the story I have about Mideba, that it happened at a club in Cayenne, French Guyana, when somebody came in and there were lots of people, as he says, and then it became a little too tight and Deba. And you know, when you have small, close communities, you have Deba. So he may have been thinking about St. Joseph when he wrote that one. And that's okay, Mr. Charles, we'll accept that part of the story too. Because Jeff was St. Joe and St. Joe was Jeff. So, yes, you can clap, Miss Jeff, Miss St. Joe, put your hands together for that. I remember too, Michael and I screamed during the practice. Just before I sang, Depuis le temps de création, Jeff went far away. Creation, he started to sing way about that particular one. But again, that was the man. And we were wondering, when we did that, will we hear other screams? One thing we agreed on though is that Jeff would have liked the medley we created with his songs. He would have been happy that his fellow Dominican artists paid attention and did justice to his songs. And even if I say so myself, I will do it. I'm also saying that because every media person from Guadeloupe and Martinique spoke about that medley when they reported about the festival. So when I traveled afterwards, everybody would tell me that they knew that Ophelia, and sometimes they call her Michelle Henderson, or the daughter of Gordon Henderson. Some thought it's my daughter, but they remembered the medley that we did in honor of Jeff. It was good being able to demonstrate how he was revered among his people. Some felt that Dominica took rather long to show that reverence and appreciation, and that we did not rise sufficiently to match the large and long show that they had in Martinique for Jeff. Martinique which he made his second home. And I have to say that the comments led me to think. I remember telling a friend of mine, so that is what I will get. So I must watch well for me to see what Jeff gets, for me to know what I will get. Or maybe what I will not get. You know, so I made that kind of reflection. But I also learned or tried to think about deeper things. I learned that sometimes grief can make us feel handicapped and unable to react appropriately or in a timely fashion. I learned that the outpouring of love for Jeff was overwhelming. I saw it myself. I was in that parade that brought him home. And it would have been nice if during his lifetime we could have found more ways to express that love and appreciation for the family. I learned that our artists should ensure that as we go along, that the administrative and the managerial aspects of our work is ensured for future security. I'm talking to us. I learned that our artistic creators must understand and secure all aspects of our copyright as these pertain to the registration of our works and the compensation that we can earn for the use of those works. I was about to say that, And I have learned that what happens to one Dominican artist affects all the others. And all Dominicans as well. I'm saying that because since Jeff died, people are calling me to sing. And they want me to pay homage to Jeff. So I'm getting a few more shows. Sorry, Daddy. I write it on that week. So I've been to French Guyana and they're asking me to come to Antigua. And everybody's talking about Jeff. And there's also something in one group that Dominica is going to do as a group, and of course they're talking about Jeff. For this reason, my friends, we are heavy-hearted that he has passed. But I heard one guy say, he did not go too far. Remembering him does not disturb his rest. His body of work, all of that work, is part of our culture and part of our heritage. Because he lived, and because of the manner in which he created and shared and the toil, we are a richer people. I heard your representative in the Queen Show say that St. Joseph might not have plenty money, but St. Joe is rich. St. Joe is a rich community. Because of Jeff, Dominica is a richer nation. And the Caribbean is a richer region. Thank you.
It's interesting that he introduced me by looking at the question of identity. Because in truth and in fact, that was one of the more, you might want to say, profound impacts of Jeff Joseph, the music of Jeff Joe, and the music of Dominican musicians of the period. Okay? Sometimes I poke fun at myself. Sometimes I say, Mani wa susa, mani wa sin. Which when you sound big, when you sound like, when you sound quiet. So in fact, you say I'm a real Dominican man, but also a real Caribbean man. In terms of when you look at DNA. But much more than DNA, you have to look at your identity, your attitude, your Creole attitude, your Carinago attitude, your African attitude, and all of that in the mix of the multiplicity of identities, which in fact Jeff Joe represented. But I will start by reading some quotations of what some very important and interesting people have to say about Jeff Joe, and then we will weave it together. We have to kind of rush it because there's not much more radio time, and quite a few folks out there want to hear, well, at least some of that analysis. Okay, let me just start by a quotation from Josette Manet, who is the president of the Conseil Général over in Martinique. She says, well, she said it in French, but I did some translations. Jeff Joseph was one of the lights of our musical culture across the world. He influenced a whole generation of singers and musicians. He charmed for decades an audience who loved him, not only for his talent and energy which he expressed on stage, but also for his human qualities, his commitment to weave the fraternal links among all the peoples of the Caribbean and beyond. That was Josette Manet, President of the Conseil Général over in Martinique. Now we have Yvette Gallo, who is also President de la Commission de la Culture de la Région, meaning she's the President of the Cultural Commission of the same regional council in Martinique. Let's see what she has to say. For all of us attached to his music and his immense stage talent, it is a trouble, it is a diva. Singer of Calypso, Jeff re-established our link and belonging to the Caribbean. Very important statement. Jeff Joseph re-established our link, meaning the people of the French Caribbean, Dominica, Martinique, and Guadeloupe. Re-established our link and belonging to the Caribbean. A bridge artist that link people. We thank him and pay homage to him for his inestimable support that he gave to us. His memory will remain for all those who knew him, and the awareness and the conscience of our Caribbean identity is preserved and developed as a result. There's Maurice Monte, who is the president of the Association of Mayors in Martinique. He says, iconic singer of Gramax, an artist and musician known the world over, Jeff marked his epoch with numerous unforgettable hits which have made several generations dance. Okay, very, very, very important aspect. We have from the Cultural Affairs Direction, again in Martinique, Jeff Joseph leaves with us the memory of a humble man, joyful and warm, one who enjoyed life. A veritable showman who has charmed everyone from Dominica, where he formed in the group Gramax, to New York or Paris, passing through Guadeloupe and of course Martinique. His music, a mixture of calypso, funk, reggae, has made crowds dance for over 40 years and spread Creole all over the Caribbean. Eugene Lachey, president of the Southern States Community, again in Martinique, says, we've Jeff gone a true light of Caribbean music characterized by an inimitable voice, the voice of Jeff. Had to imitate. He was an iconic representative of Calypso period with the group Gramax, and his numerous hits including the famous Deva. He crossed the periods and styles with equal talent. Very important. He crossed the periods and styles with equal talent. Let's explore a little bit more. His melodies, his lyrics, and his attractive personality, and his huge simplicity will remain engraved in our memories. Very, very important. Very, very powerful statement. We have Maurice Zela, who is the Association of St. Lucians, again, resident Martin. He was an ambassador for Dominicans, represented the Prime Minister of Dominica at the wake of ANC there. He was a close friend, otherwise it was very difficult for Jeff not to have friends everywhere. His passing is a great loss for the entire Caribbean and a great loss for the Creole community. I have a quote here from none other than Ophelia, a song that she gave to the media. she said, this is heavy. That really killed me. Jeff was my big brother as he started his music career before me, as well as Gordon Henderson, who was before Ophelia as well. He showed me the example of how to carry Dominica on my back while I traveled abroad. Sophia says, he got shy on the okay? He was an ambassador for Dominican culture, and he was so named by the government as cultural ambassador. I will miss him because he was a people's artist, one who enjoyed life. He paid homage to his country, and he sang Calypso till the end. That was Ophelia. One very humble person from Dominica says, Natasha it is, if I did not know him personally, I feel as if it's what I had lost a parent. Jeff meant a lot of things to us. He made us proud overseas, and many people will tell you that before everything, he was very attached to his own. Another quote, Jeff, again from another Dominican person, who goes by the name of Natasha, yes. Jeff Joseph represented his island all over the world. He was very attracted to his Dominican roots. He was someone who was very kind, very friendly, someone one could talk to without knowing that he was swell-headed, besides his artistic achievements. Very important. Dominica has lost one of his big figures. Finally, Raphael Confiant, this great Martinican Creole author, the author of many Creole language novels, who got very prestigious awards in France. He says, we recall the good sentiments of the, he says, Jeff and other great Dominican musicians, Gordon Henderson included, basically invented modern Creole music, mixing it with African American rhythms. They gave a great impetus to the Creole language, an impetus that Kassam and other extraordinary bands amplified through the music and through the Creole language. Jeff and his comrades, Dominican musicians, transported Creole to countries where they had never written before. For example, in Guyana. Jeff, his great laughter, his smile, his communicative personality always puts you at ease. As Raphael Confiant, author of Martin. Now, more recently, we'll also recall many of the very good sentiments at the World Creole Music Festival issued by many of the musicians before, people like Thierry Martin from Martinique, our friends from Haiti, the Haitian bands, all giving personal testimonies of the impact of Jeff, not only on the music, but as human beings, in terms of his personal interaction.
And last and not least, right? I want to thank my friend who I use he was my idol as I grew up listening to his music. He's not that old.
No, not
I'm right behind him.
Yeah.
But his music made me different. I grew up listening to his music, and it's a pleasure for me to be next to him, to be standing next to him, to be in country, to be playing music next to him.
Now, in all those testimonies and quotations, let's just reflect back on the keywords. In terms of identity, what comes up? Dominicanness, Caribbeanness, Africanness, Creole. In terms of Jeff's personality, humble, simple, friendly, approachable, one who enjoyed life, very attractive personality. Performing qualities, very strong stage presence, charisma, abundance of energy, talent, a great voice. Music qualities, great melodies, great lyricists, a variety of styles, genres, and evolved his music with the generations. Okay, so in terms of the impact of Jeff Jones, he provided musical mentorship. He was a musical mentor providing advice to many musicians and singers, not just in Dominica, but in Martinique, Guadeloupe, and Haiti, and beyond. His music crossed the borders, not just the Caribbean, but over to Africa and Latin America. I'll give you one example. I was in Nicaragua many years ago. I think it was about 1985 or thereabouts. And I went out to this market in Managua, Nicaragua, and I bought 2 albums by a group called Coastal Dimension. One was Christmas, Calypso Christmas, Jingle Bells kind of thing. The other one was really reprise, retaking, a remix of popular Calypso hits. And among those hits were We Gave Up and Rosita by XL1. All the way over in Nicaragua. The same thing happened in Cape Verde, all the way across over in West Africa, and in Seychelles, Mauritius, and Caribbean. Now his music and lyrics also resonated with popular consciousness all over. Not only he made people dance, he provided anthems for parties and the clubs. Recalling one, for example, Pas Danser à ma Coco-Sec was like a road march, an anthem for the clubs and the parties, the beach festivals in Guadeloupe. Pas Danser à ma Coco-Sec is clearly when he dance on the tree. But that's dangerous stuff because the dry coconut is trying to take the hair. So he was giving you advice, Pas Danser à ma Coco-Sec. Of course you can take it and transport that meaning. Okay? Now his lyrics, as other speakers before me said, his lyrics connected with people and their everyday experiences. Like our friends here talk about stories, the Beth, the politics, the folklore, you know, the Sukuyang, and those kind of stories. So those lyrics actually connected with people and their everyday experience. Now Jeff and Gramas on the musical side also were engaged in a great deal of musical innovation within Calypso. So even in the heyday of Calypso music, there was a great deal of innovation going on, not only just with XI1, like a few years, but actually Chanson d'Amour was one of the very, very great innovations in Calypso music, which actually ushered in and paved the way for a genre of zouk called zouk. Okay, so you might say, in fact, Chanson d'Amour was probably, but you might say the mama and papa of the genre called zouk. Yeah? Another thing about the innovativeness of the music was the use of the guitar, and of course a very great tribute to Fuesol. Fuesol, very excellent guitarist, and that will reflect in the music. Of course, the horns, the use of synthesizers, and as a result, the musical color of Gramas's music, of jazz music, was what he would describe in musical terms as technical, not great, but technical. In other words, the music of Gramas and Jeff was very, very bright. It was not gray at all. Very bright, reflecting Atlantic, reflecting our Caribbean, it was reflecting our Caribbean colors. In that sense, yeah? So the music reflected that. Now when Jeff came back on his solo career, he took the music even further internationally by fusing reggae, calypso, and funk with the Calypso music. And of course some of these were reflected in Sweet Banana Sweet. And in this project he worked with Cool and the Gang. Now when he joined the project called Vote Fast, which really means about turn. The Vote Fast project was founded by Destiny Joseph, creating another great musical wave in Martinique, Guadeloupe, and in Paris. They created a new string of hits representing a new bilingual approach to the lyrics. Hitherto, there was a lot of emphasis on French Creole. In the context of Vote Fast, Jeff took a very interesting bilingual approach to the music, and this approach was reflected in If I Say Yes, put on the radio, and that also helped the people in Martinique and Guadeloupe to learn English. You know, so he reached, using that linguistic diversity, if I call it, approach by Jeff, was a way not only to reach the language diversity in our Caribbean, but to reach a wider audience, and again to connect to your audience, because this is what music is all about. You have to connect both musically and lyrically to your audience, to the generation, and that is one of the things that Jeff was able to do with the passing generations. At one point I recall Vote Fast did Casa. In terms of, they were like, once Casa was playing a concert somewhere in the outskirts of Guadeloupe, and Vote Fast was playing another. And Vote Fast was had all the crowds and all the masses, and you know, so his project with Vote Fast actually created a newer, in some cases they referred to him démentiel. In other words, somebody who just with an abundance of energy on the stage and just brought everybody to life. That was Jeff Joe. Now, in terms of the impact, musical impact, Kassav and Zouk music benefited from a great deal by the work of Jeff and the other Dominican bands. This includes the aspect of showmanship, the stage presence, stage choreography, the popularity of Creole lyrics, and the fusion of styles within the musical genre. Okay, let me just repeat that. The aspect of showmanship, stage presence, choreography, the popularity of Creole lyrics, and the fusion of styles within the music. I recall, way back in the 70s, the musicians from Martinique and Guadeloupe, they performed mainly on piano bars and clubs and so on. And basically a very, I would say, conservative in your musical expressions. Or, well, at least I'm talking about the person, the musicians, each of the movements on the stage and that. They were very exclusive musically because they were schooled in the classics and the jazz. So from the musical, what they call the music recherche point of view, they were very schooled, but they couldn't transpose that musical recherche or that great capacity that they had to the stage. And this is what Jeff Joseph and the Dominican bands brought to the music in the French Antilles. So they transformed the whole notion of the music, the dance music, and what the music represented in the French Antilles. So when Kassav came on the scene, Kassav inherited all those characteristics and gelled into one. In fact, Kassav then took the whole music of the spectacle, music of the spectacle, to a whole new direction. Okay, so that was part of Jeff Joe's impact also, and he himself became part of the music phenomenon as well. And of course, Jeff Joe continued working in the calypso genre, really recording quite a few calypsos throughout his career with illustrated songs. But we also record that he re-recorded EPT by Lord Shorty, and even transformed that song into a bigger hit. And EPT, so that was a sort of a attempt by Lord Shorty when he was in fact developing the soca genre. So Shorty had come to Dominica, spent some time in Dominica, saw what Gramax Exile were doing, and he decided to create this song EPT with a fusion. It was actually a fusion of calypso and calypso rhythms as a precursor to the development of soca. Now on the culture side, in Dominica, we take certain things for granted. As Ophelia mentioned, we do not have a celebrity culture compared to Martinique and France. The celebrity culture, the culture of the fans. Alright? Now, the arts feature as the most prestigious occupation in France. Okay? Hence, the love and adoration and respect in these countries for the contribution of Jeff Joe. Okay? But in the 1970s, the social and political circumstances did play a very great impact, on the individual artists like Jeff. We recall Black Power, Rastafarianism, the anti-colonial, cultural nationalist movement, and all those movements, those influences impacted on our Dominican musicians. It impacted on Jeff Joe. But once Calypso was born, it radically changed our dance culture, the dance band culture in Dominica. Not only that bands sprung up in all the villages in Dominica, you have little boys coming and biscuit teams on the mango trees in Aragon, striking the calypso rhythm. That was the intensity of the action, impact of that. But very important part of the music of Jeff Joe and the calypso is that the music united the generations. Compared to today, where you might say Zouk and Bouillon and hip hop and rap tends to divide generations. But Calypso, in fact, united the generations. The old and the young could be seen filling up the dance halls. They could connect with the message, they could connect with the lyrics, and it was all a very one love kind of affair among the generations, the old and the young filling up the dance hall. Very, very important. Jeff and Gramax impacted on the mentality and consciousness of our young people in the 70s, developing pride in Dominican music, the fact that we can have our own homegrown music, and also pride in our Dominican culture. So it helped foster and foment that nationalistic consciousness among young people in Dominica in the 70s and beyond. Though we know that the music itself has an intrinsic cultural significance because music is part of the culture. But very importantly, Jeff's music and Kana's music in general impacted on the whole question of identity. That was one of the strongest cultural impacts of the music. Jeff Joseph personally would say had several identities as many of us, like myself, Ophelia. He was first and foremost a Dominican. He promoted Dominica in his performances, in his travels, media interviews, his dress, his trademark bandana included a Dominica flag. That was his trademark, right? And then he was a Caribbean man. He did not get bogged down in petty in politics. And this was reflected in his music, the lyrics, musical styles. And he mentioned each island by name, beginning in the classic world. I know I have been asked by my friend here to try to wrap it up in 5-10 minutes. I think we're doing fine. We're doing fine. So he considered himself just as Martinican as the Guadeloupean, as a Dominican. Okay? He was also an African man, paying homage to African heritage and roots, Rastafarians, his dreadlocks style, always bigging up that part of his heritage. At the same time, Jeff was Creole, as seen his commitment to promoting the Creole language in his music, as Raphael Confiant, the Martinican author, indicated that he and other musicians gave a very strong impetus to the Creole language and spread the Creole language to areas and countries that they never heard before. Though Jeff Joe was a very competent person politically, okay, every time we would meet when he comes to Dominica, we would have this political conversation. But these conversations were not only just about Dominica, but more importantly about building the links between Martinique, Guadeloupe, and Dominica. So he was very, very committed to that type of politics, politics of change, the politics of grassroots development, of uniting people of the Caribbean, and developing closer ties with the countries, as I said. Now, Jeff Joe, God Henderson, and the other, he got people in Martinique and Guadeloupe to see themselves as Caribbean and not just French. Okay? In fact, probably this is one of the biggest cultural impact of Canadian music on the French dance. The presence of musicians like Jeff Joseph, God Henderson, and others, the physical presence of them personally interacting with cultural activists, with Creole nationalists, with politicians in Guadeloupe, and through the music, played a very important role in shaping and reshaping the consciousness there. I remember back in the days, Dominica was a bad example. Dominica was a very bad example for Martinicans and Guadeloupe. Dominica represented everything that they ought not to be, they should not be. As a matter of fact, right-wing politicians in Martinique and Guadeloupe use Dominica as the example as to why Martinique and Guadeloupe should not become politically independent, why they should remain in France. Because Dominica, you know, the whole business of poverty, Dominicans thinking in the P-Wall and quickly to come across the Guadeloupe to make money. So it was a very, very bad picture. Okay? Now, of course, we had the example of this long pen elements, the criminal elements who left Dominica and went to Dominica to Guadeloupe to perpetrate the crime. So, we had a bad image. Now, God Henderson, Jeff Joseph, Ramas, and all the others created a whole new image for Dominica in Guadeloupe and Martinique. The school curriculum, the music played on radio, coverage on TV, even the way the news was reflected, or not reflected, actually reflected very little of the Caribbean region. The school curriculum that is in Martinique and Guadeloupe reflected very little of the Caribbean. The music that was played on radio and TV, very little of the Caribbean neighbors. Alright? The news, very little news about Dominica and Guadeloupe except when something sensational happens. Okay, so all that changed in the entire social and political system in Martinique and Guadeloupe. That is why, again, we can well understand the profoundness of the impact of Jeff Joe in terms of the culture and the music in Martinique and Guadeloupe. So, by way of conclusion, just to wrap up, Jeff Joe contributed to the development of Creole music, to Dominican and Caribbean music, to the evolution of the music, connecting the music with each generation, and contributed to the international reach of Creole music. He contributed to lay the basis of the development of Zouk and the music of showmanship, the music of the spectacle, not just of the dance. And he also shared his experience freely to young musicians, not only in Dominica, but throughout the dance, overseas departments of France. And in terms of culture, as I said, his efforts contributed to the valorization, the projection of the Creole language, impacting on the political and cultural consciousness of the people, particularly of Martinique and Guadeloupe, and in that process promoting a Caribbean identity, even while he projecting his own Dominican roots and identity, impacted on the political consciousness and awakening of Caribbean identity within the dance and within the Caribbean, impacted on the dance culture and the development of the music industry in the French Antilles and Dominica and our region. Thank you very much. Merci en vie, merci en time, merci en
Il dit oui, 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 la tête, maman mi débat. Mais amen, tête à tête pour nous régler ça. 23 novembre 2011, il partit. Musique là entière, en souvenir pour toute la vie. Il dédiquait toute la vie pour musique là, ça pied, tout ça est mis. En pour musique là. Sans poser, il doit pas être pour musique là, couper monter descendre, juste un mot pour musique là. Balancer sur musique là, nous qui t'en voix caille, couille, chanter ma musique là. Nous qui continuons, lever la main, balancer sur musique là. Nous qui t'en voix caille, couille, chanter ma musique là. Tout bon la terre, y aller, qu'à jouer musique là. Bien solide, et tout bon pour qu'à danser là. Fais mon plaisir, manuel, et commander celle-là. Si vous êtes, maintenant, Dominica et Guadeloupe.
Time has come to an end. My new life has just begun. Though I'm not far away, I long to feel the sun. Tell me why, in a shadow where should I lie? And not to see the raindrops or the sun shining in my eyes. Yes, I'm lonely in my new home as I search for